Alright. I've gotten a question on how the pencil should be held while you're drawing. The way I start is I start by holding the pencil on the side, like this. And this way it frees me up to use my entire arm. And when you hold a pencil like this, really the only range of motion you get is in your fingertips and maybe a little bit in your wrist. It's great for detail. What I like to do is I like to have my pencil on the side. And I start with very loose lines, and I start trying to find the shapes and relationship the shapes, contrast to the shapes. But I also try to find the rhythms that work between the shapes or from one shape to the other. I'm reminded of a lecture I went to recently, Andrew Stanton, the director of Finding Nemo, and he compared story or talked about the story process, and he talked about how messy it was. And you know, the story process at Pixar is a story process of revising everything. So he said that he wanted to make sure that he was wrong as fast as he could be. In other words, he wanted to get everything out there on the page, even though he knew it was going to be wrong and going to be changed later. And that's really the way that I try to approach a character design. I know that I'm going to refine everything, so I want to get it out there on the page as quickly as possible. I know I'm going to revise it later. I don't want you guys to think there's no construction here. I'm finding shapes here. I'm loose, but I am finding certain volumes and shapes, and I'm finding how they relate to one another. So essentially this has to work as one drawing. But in this early stage, it's all about exploration. Yeah, it's a big feat on this kid. Anyway. You can kind of see how I start. And once I kind of get it to this stage, oh, and I might also hold the pencil from back here, and this will also free me up. And still a relatively loose line. And I can't really commit to fine detail. But like I said, it keeps me loose. And the nice thing is, since my fingers can't control the pencil, you see, your fingers have a certain amount of memory to them. When we have the pencil in our fingers, we're on autopilot. Our fingers have a memory of their own, and they're drawing before our mind has a chance to tell it what to draw. And that's how bad habits start. By choking or pulling back on the pencil like this, I have less control. But so it's more of an effort of my mind to control what I'm drawing. And the shapes, there's some accidents that happen here too. Shapes that aren't quite what I would have drawn, but it's a great discovery, and it's kind of fun. And now I can start to mold that shape into something that I never would have imagined. And like I said, this is an experimental stage. I want to just kind of explore some ideas. Now, this isn't a great drawing, but for an example, you know, it shows you how I would approach it. Another thing I'll do is I'll flip the drawing over, and you won't be able to see it probably on this video, but I'll be able to see the drawing lightly. And this is the same approach as flipping a drawing or showing a drawing in a mirror. And when you reverse a drawing, your mistakes and the relationships are much more obvious. Our eye has grown used to seeing the drawing the way that we created it, and we don't always see our mistakes. Flipping it over here, I can start to refine things, tie it down a little bit more. Might choke up on the pencil a little bit here. But even if I choke up here, look how loose I'm keeping this line. I want to make sure there's still life in this line. As soon as I keep choking up on this pencil too tight here that I can only use my fingers, I'll make sure that I'm going to run the risk of killing the line here, and there's no more life in the drawing. It'll become too flat. And eventually I'll start to tie this drawing down, and in most cases after I have something I like, I'll put another sheet of paper over this drawing and redraw it. Not trace it, but I'll redraw it and start to end up with something I like and start to tie it down. But at this point I would start tying this down a little bit more, defining these shapes a little bit better. But for a rough character design, it's okay to stay fairly rough. You don't want to show your director something that's too finished and find out it's the completely opposite direction that he wants to go in. But you want to keep it loose. And at this point, I'm going to try to find a graphite pencil here, which I'm having trouble finding since I don't draw that much with traditional media anymore. At this point I've grabbed a graphite pencil. It's a Tombow, and this is a 2B. I would usually grab something a little harder. I'd grab an HB or an F. I'll come in here and start to tie down some of the shapes, darken it in a little bit. It'll be better for scanning and eventually for adding any tone or color. Still keeping it loose. Still don't want to suck the life out of it. This isn't... If we're doing this for a 2D show, then I would want to be staying pretty rough in the beginning, and after designs are approved we start deciding what a cleanup line would look. But I still want to keep these shapes loose. But I'm looking at the contrast of shapes, how they relate to one another. Alright, there we go. Not a great drawing, but it gives you a little bit of an example of how I will approach it, and I hope it'll help you guys.